And we also do some smart things in terms of saving space and improving performance. When you have VMs and you say you want to clone virtual desktop, in vCenter you say I want to clone 1,000 virtual desktop. Or like in JP Morgan's case, I want to clone 90,000 virtual desktop. We integrate with vCenter, and what we do is we will not copy those files all over again because we are Symantec. We have the file system technology. What we do is we do file system snapshot. So you have 90,000 snapshots in the machine. Simple. Within a few minutes, we can create 90,000 virtual machines for JP Morgan. We just take 90,000 snapshots. So from there, you gain two things. The first thing is you get space optimized snapshot because you save space. Because most of the OS is the same. It's only the incremental part that's different. So in the incremental part, obviously, they are stored individually for each VM. So in JP Morgan's environment, they will have 90 of this, but it's still incremental. So you eliminate the OS duplicates. So first thing, you save this space in your virtual store. You don't just buy thousands of servers of thousands of dollars of storage and you use it to store duplicated OS blocks, right? And then because they are all snapshot, if we go back one slide, right? All this server needs to do is to read that standard OS snapshot into memory, right? And you will never have to hit the disk again unless it's reading a new VM, the incremental blocks. So it becomes very, very powerful. Because if the OS images is, let's say the OS is just 10 gig. If this Linux server has got 16 gig memory, the whole OS image is in memory. So when there's a request from the VDI client, the blocks get served directly from memory out to the network. The server only need to read the incremental blocks here. That's why it is so scalable. That's why it's so scalable. So a combination of our file system snapshot plus memory caching lets you have a highly scalable NAS appliance that you build yourself, or you can ask a partner, one of our partners, to build it for you, that can scale independently in terms of capacity or independently in terms of bandwidth and still save you this space and highly scalable. So this product is called Virtual Store. Some of the futures. So in the future, what do we see and what are we driving at? At Symantec, we think this is the future, and our R&D will be placed on making this happen for you. Suggested remediation. Now storage will continue to have different class. Now there's one more complication, which is SSD. Super fast, super expensive. So, but sometimes absolutely necessary, because nowadays some applications just need that kind of performance. So when you have different class of storage, from very fast SSD to 15,000 RPM disk to cheap SATA disk, you would want to have a policy that automatically place your data into the correct storage. For example, you may have one volume supported by different class of storage. We enable that to happen. It's called multi-volume file system. We have this technology 6 years ago in Symantec, in our file system. You may want to have a policy that says, for example, if it's an Oracle database, I want the very important archive file or the log files on the SSD storage, because whenever a transaction comes in, it gets right to the log. So that must be super fast in SSD. Normal database file, which is big and seldom used, but still important, I want to keep it on my 15,000 RPM disk. But my archive log file, which is not so important, I may want to keep it on SATA disk, for example. So in the future, what you can do is you can have a policy that says this type of file put on this storage, this type of file put on this storage, and so on. So it's automatic. So that you can really make full use of your investment into high-end storage and still make full use of the advantage of cheap and low-end storage by automated policy. In the future, we will work more on identifying performance bottleneck. Because of the visibility that we have from application to spindle, we can actually do a lot more for our users in terms of identifying performance bottleneck and recommending solution to fix those things. And hybrid cloud. In the future, we will want to make it more easy for you to have a mixture of private cloud and public cloud. Now, Storage Foundation 6 now enable you to build very confident private cloud. But in the future, you may want to use public cloud for certain types of data. For example, your archival data. You may not want to keep petabytes of data in-house for archival. For certain data that is not so confidential, but you still need to keep them, you may want to push it to the cloud. So in the future, you will see some integration where our file system can be extended to a public cloud. Lastly, manage it as a service. So self-service provisioning is something that we're looking at. So when that happens, what your user can do is when they need more storage, they doesn't have to fill out a form or fill out a portal to ask for more storage for their database server or Exchange server or web server. They can go to a self-service portal, fill out a web form, hit enter, and the thing gets automatically provisioned for them. Everything from cradle to grave, everything automated for them. And lastly, cloud-based file system. In our lab, we have several attempts of designing enterprise object-based file system that can span across enterprise-wide, across size. And these objects can be accessed from not just normal PCs or servers, but also from mobile devices. So when that happens, you have a really large cloud-based file system where you can access your data whether you're using an iPhone or Android device or Windows-powered phone to your object base when that happens. Yeah. Okay, now we shift gear a bit. We talked about storage just now. Now we want to talk about application availability. So a survey from IDC say that when a user want to consider virtualization, the first thing they consider is actually uptime, availability. The third one, or the second most important one, the second longest part here is unanticipated cost increase. That's the storage part. So availability is very important. And a joint Symantec VMware partner made this statement that customers have issues with application failing in the VM. Not the VM failing, because VMware can detect the VM failing. But if it's the application that fails, not the VM, not the OS. For example, the OS is still running, Windows is still running, or Linux is still running, but Oracle is dead in that VM. VMware doesn't really detect that. So the solution is not enough, and that's why we collaborated together with VMware to create a solution called Application HA. So Application HA is an engineering collaboration for us and VMware. It took us about 1.5 years. What we do is actually very simple. We take the technology from our Veritas cluster server, all the agent technologies that help us detect application status in the server, and we port them over to VMware HA. That's it. So our application monitoring agents now sits in VMware HA. VMware HA as in vMotion and so on. So what we are helping in the VMware environment is that we integrate that with VMware vCenter console, so that from vCenter, the user can see, from the vCenter, the user can see the actual status of the application. Okay, let me just explain that later in the presentation. Now, there are two forces that's affecting virtualization. There's this group here called application admin. What they wanted is application availability, because when their application goes down, They are the ones that is most unhappy. But there are also infrastructure admin that says, I want to virtualize everything. Well, I maintain the infrastructure, and I know that virtualization will bring about all this benefit and cost saving. So I want to virtualize everything, but application admin is saying, no. You can't virtualize everything unless you can guarantee uptime. So there's a constant sort of a debate between the two groups. And if application admin want to ensure availability, they will use OS-based clustering.